Hey guys, you're watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, episode 4 from your friends at Daniel and Gian Talk. I'm Gian Perez. As always, that's Daniel Trujillo. And today we are going to do a quick review on the 2004 Anurag Kashyap film based on the 1993 Mumbai bombings. Is it Mumbai?
Yeah, Bombay. And they talk about that at the very end. It was Bombay, and then
they changed it to Mumbai, yeah.
Mumbai, yeah, after this.
But the bombings in 93. Film came out in 2004, if I didn't say that already.
It came out in 2007, actually.
On
it came out. It was made in 2004, and it was banned until 2007.
Oh, it was released for 3 years. That's interesting.
Yep.
Let's just get into it.
The sound design, for me, was really, really good. There was moments where there was like dubbing problems with the voiceovers. Like you could tell that they weren't capturing live audio on set. But for the most part, like the bombings, the way it was set up, I mean, to me, that was all great. Just the effort being put into actually building a world around there.
Right.
Unlike the attacks of 26/11, where it was just music, it was just score. Let's take out all the sounds.
Yeah.
This one was, no, let's put in the sounds. Let's hear the screaming. Let's hear the fires. Let's hear the whatever it might come of it, it's horrific. I think that's horrific. So for me, like, sound design, definitely a plus.
I appreciate the sound too. Cause I don't remember much music being in it at all, and
when it was used just to enhance the moments. Right. It was there, but it was just to enhance
very subtle.
The
it wasn't over.
No, not like attacks of the 26.
I'm impressed by how much he was able to get done, how much he was able to put into this film with the tiny budget that he had.
This is his second movie. Yeah. Technically, it was like made around the same time as his first movie, because his first movie still hasn't been released, by the way. Also, it was supposed to be released in 2004, because of censorship.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd think he would just go the festival circuit.
Well, he's released it on festivals, but that's it. That's
right.
it. They played it at the Los Angeles Indian Film Festival a few years ago, which is weird, man. You would think in this day and age he'd be able to just throw it online and not give a shit, but who knows? Anyway,
he probably doesn't want to get in trouble because he still lives in India and everything.
This is true.
But no, I mean,
it was a lot.
It's a testament to with Gangs of Wasseypur was the same thing. He didn't seem like there was a lot of money put into that either, and he's able to get away with a lot, like do a lot with the minimal budget.
He seems to understand.
And there's a lot of people. That's like in this film there was a lot of extras. There was so many people on screen.
It was hard for me to keep track of names.
Right.
I think this movie becomes even better if you're completely familiar with everybody.
Yeah.
Or maybe more than me, because I had to stop halfway through the movie, and I'm like, okay, who the hell are these people? Let me read about it, and then I found out.
Felt like the first time you watched Game of Thrones, where you were lost.
100%. I'm not even kidding. I was super lost. It took me 3 seasons to catch up. But so I looked it up, and apparently they're part of D Company, which is like this mafia organization, which actually the movie Company is based off of. So that actually kind of makes me want to watch Company a little bit more, because not that these guys are interesting, that's not the right word, but I'm just curious to know more about them.
Right.
I mean, it's just, there's something there. I mean, these are real people. That's what's scary about all this. These are just real life human beings. They also murdered Gulshan Kumar, who was the founder of T-Series. Obviously, we've been reacting to a lot of T-Series stuff, so it was interesting to read that. I mean, that's not in this movie, but I was just like, oh, wow, what happened there?
That's crazy.
Like, what was going on that caused that? I didn't read into it, but, that's
it's definitely like big to us, because that stuff doesn't happen here.
Harvey Weinstein, as bad as he is not going to get whacked by the mafia.
In fact, maybe in early Hollywood, things like that happen, but now.
Well, they definitely happened in early, like the 20s. They would keep people quiet, to make sure that the sex scandals weren't. What was his name? Fatty Arbuckle. Didn't he rape 1 million girls?
Was it Fatty or Roscoe Arbuckle?
Whatever, I'm not sure.
I just know he was an Arbuckle.
One of them. You know what I mean?
He was accused of raping and killing someone, and they completely covered it up.
But he's definitely a criminal. But yeah, so putting all those characters together and making it cohesive, making it not. I don't want to say boring, but just never really losing the sense of what we're doing, what this movie's about. Always being aware of the edit. I gotta compliment him on that. I'm curious to know how much feet of film was shot for this. Because this is what we saw. I doubt that this is all that was shot. I just feel like there was twice as much stuff on the cutting room floor.
Or maybe he had a finite amount of film stock, and he had to
shot as much shit as possible.
He had to get it, everything done. So he's like, I only have this much film. we have to like, he might have rehearsed the shit out of everything, like really, really, really plan this out. And maybe this was like, because I do feel like that's something that we see throughout the film. It's very similar from the beginning to the end. So it's maybe like, this is all we can get away with. I can only get 2-3 takes, you know?
If that.
Yeah, if that per shot, we gotta
maybe
this,
and if it is that way,
this
that's even more of a testament to him, because that takes a lot of planning. I mean, just to do a 20-minute. I mean, I've been editing this 20-minute shows for the Growing Up Immigrant. I can't even imagine editing a 3-hour version of this,
right?
Or whatever, whatever it ended up, was at one point. But I mean, I don't know. I liked it. I like that energy. But let's jump ahead. Cinematography for me was a plus. Not necessarily because of the way it looked, but just more so in terms of like the color scheme that they chose. They made sure all the interrogations were red. They made sure the flashbacks were blue. This way of helping the viewer to align with like, okay, now we're in this frame of time space.
Well, I think we have to like clarify as well. Like we say that the photography, the DP, but that's that. For you guys that don't know much about the film world, a lot of times we attribute that to the cameraman, the DP, whatever.
But it's the director.
It's the director.
Who says, I want it to be
this is Anurag's choice. He said he wants this.
True, but it could have been the DP said, hey, let's try this. It's a collaboration. Yeah. Film's a collaboration, but. So for me, that's why I just said the cinematography, because that is true what Gian said, 100%. It usually is 99% of the time.
Oh, I'm just throwing this out there because before I went to film school, I thought, the camera guy, like the DP was in charge of so much.
But I mean,
and the director was just like focused on performance.
Some cases they are in complete control. Like Tarantino, he doesn't design shots like that. He just says, I want to do a close-up, I want to do this, and then that's why he hires the best in the game to go.
You just knocked Tarantino down a few rungs for me. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, he still thinks of the shots, know, but like in terms of the lighting, I mean, that's what separates regular directors from big-time directors, is they have a whole cast and crew to work with that they don't have to do everything. They can just say, hey, I'm doing a movie in the 30s, in Chicago. Go at the costume design, go get some costumes, and I'll say yes or no. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I feel like that's once you get to a certain level.
Yeah, right.
And people know what your style is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but anyway, I just liked how, like I said, the color scheme kind of just helped align the viewers, so they know this is a flashback. They know this is the police.
No, that was great. I'm right on there with you.
Then it was like warm for like present day, because there's a lot going on. It's a complex story. Yeah. I mean, it's arguable that there was a story, but it was a complex. There's a lot of shit going on. We already said that with the characters.
No, and I completely agree. Like, definitely the use of color scheme was very important to this film.
Reminded me of Traffic, the American film.
Yeah, because when you're in Mexico, it's all yellow, kind of black and white, yellowy, and then when you're in the States, it's full color. Yep. You go back and forth in between. That's how you know where you're at.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which is just a technique. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this for every movie.
No, definitely.
But for this one, it helped out.
Do you think there was a Traffic influence on this film?
When did Traffic come out? 2001?
I think so.
If it came out in 2001, knowing Anurag and his influences, I would have to say yes. I would have to say that there was definitely.
How dare you compare an Indian film to a Hollywood film again?
Because in my opinion, 2000 it came out. So definitely, because it won Best Picture and everything. In my opinion, there really wasn't many movies that did that before Traffic.
Right.
This like very distinct color scheme. I'm not saying they didn't exist. I'm not saying that no one else did it. I'm just saying that I remember for me it
was shit about Mexico too.
It kind of was.
Mexico's so shitty. This is what it looks like.
It looks so gritty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me those are my two pluses in terms of like the technical aspects. Do you have anything else? I have like two more in the goods, but
I thought the lead inspector performance-wise,
the main interrogator guy?
Yeah, he was really good. Like, you saw there's parts where he was like, the way they were abusing these guys, it was bothering him. And he was like, had to like...
Dude, what about that, man? All that abuse shit.
Yeah.
Like, that is not... I mean, I can't say that's not how it is in America, but...
Well, I think when it comes to terrorism, we have no idea how they treat terrorists here.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's not 100% true.
Or if you're black, they definitely treat you like that if you're black here.
That's definitely true.
You get arrested for hanging out at fucking Starbucks.
Well, what I was going to say is we don't know about that stuff we don't know what goes on behind closed doors until like they get exposed in the documentaries,
Right.
like what they did in I was going to say Guatemala, Guantanamo Bay,
Right.
and like so stuff goes on. But
or
I
that
feel
place
like
in Afghanistan where they had him like
Abu
walking
Ghraib,
around.
Abu Ghraib or
Abu
Abu
Ghraib,
Ghraib,
yeah,
something
Abu
like
Ghraib.
yeah. I mean that's so it's.
Or when James Comey just fucking spills the tea.
Did he? Did he say something?
Oh, he's been his memoir.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean that's besides the point. My thing is, it's kind of been shown that it doesn't really give you anything more.
Yeah, like you beat someone up enough,
they're going to tell you
they're
whatever.
going to tell you whatever you want to hear eventually. Yeah,
which is not necessarily going to lead you to anything.
No, definitely.
And then, I mean, we can get into a whole torture discussion another day. I've been waterboarded myself, like amateurly, and it was one of the worst experiences like of my life. And I'm not even kidding. So like, if there's anyone out there who doesn't condone that as torture, you're crazy. Because it's. I mean, again, well, if you're interested, podcast.
All right.
Let us know in the comments. Yeah, no, I liked his performance. I kind of liked all the performances, to be honest with you.
It was really solid in the pocket. Like nothing.
Everyone was fit their role.
Everyone did what they needed to do. And
the main guy, like the main villain, like
Right.
he was good. He was menacing. The dude with the mustache, who I'm forgetting, like I liked that whole like his bit. Siddiqui was in it. Well, like younger, looked.
I
different.
almost didn't recognize him. I was like,
I had to look it up.
Is
So
that,
I'm like, is
I was
that
like,
him?
is that? Yeah,
It looks like him.
His eyes didn't look as big.
No,
I feel like he got
definitely
eye
not.
surgery.
He did. Must have. But no, so that the performances are all good. That leads me to like my two, in terms of like film moments. There's two things that I really enjoyed: the bombings, like the way they handled the bombings.
Right.
Again, I had kind of mentioned it before. It was just very real, very. I don't know. I just felt like I was there, and for no money, it felt convincing too. There was
Right.
no over-the-top special effects. There was.
So you liked the fact that
visual effects. I mean,
the explosion probably looked like what a real explosion would look like. It didn't look like a ball of flame where everybody's.
I mean,
like
it kind of
flying
was a ball of
everywhere.
flame, but at least it was a real ball of flame.
Right.
It wasn't like PK where they just added it digitally and it
Yeah.
looked like, a wide shot where it just kind of blows up. I mean, yeah, I do like people taking the time to do practical stuff like that, because to me it immerses you.
Right.
But there was also little moments that I enjoyed, like right after the bombing, like one of the Indian guys like went and took some guy's gold chain off his wrist as he's dead on the floor. I mean, that's also another side of this whole thing, that this is real.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not condoning that guy. I'm saying that's great. I wish more people would steal off dead bodies.
No, but it's a
some
silent
little touch
thing.
that
The
you don't
guys-
think
yeah.
of, but you put in there, and it probably did happen.
And it's a poor person too, and they're like,
There's a gold thing.
what, are we just gonna leave you here?
Again, it adds another level of
Yeah,
reality
absolutely.
where it's like, oh shit, that's fucking intense. I mean, seeing the burned
and it
bodies.
lets you know where the explosion takes place too. It wasn't like in a well-to-do area.
It was. I mean, it was just at the stock exchange and all. It was supposed to cripple, the world.
Right, but they missed that. It's a part in the movie where they missed the positioning, so
they don't
kinda
get
had
exact.
to,
No,
yeah.
I hear you 100%.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I agree with you 100%. And then my last really good positive for me was, and they're both kind of, they lead into one another. So the foot chase scene, I love that foot chase scene.
That guy got away for a while.
He got away, and then it stopped, and then it went on again, and then it stopped, and then it went on again. It was a 3-part chase scene, and then it ended with him getting slapped by the cops. I don't know. It's just, for me, normally that would pull me out, because it's like, okay, are you going to stop this chase scene already? Like, we get it. Like, is he going to get away or not? But we've never seen an Indian chase scene before.
Well, there was elements to it as well, like him getting tired and slowing down, the cops getting tired. And
That's
slowing
why
down.
it built
Yeah.
like it was a structured sequence. I mean, the way it was shot, the camera work. There's a part where like the cops are on one side of this river or something like that, and then he's on the other, and then it built it up properly, and I really enjoyed that. But I was gonna say it's just nice to see a foot chase in another country.
Yeah.
I mean, Point Break here in America is like one of the most famous foot chases,
Right.
and that's a long foot chase, and this one is probably longer. So it's just always nice to see that, especially since it didn't do anything cheesy with it either.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing where he ran through a house.
Well,
and
the
then there
good
was,
thing
like, a
about it is
family.
it kind of just shows you the landscape. It shows you like the way
The world, where they live, these people.
And if you're not familiar with the city, now you kind of know what the city looks like,
Absolutely.
at least this neighborhood. And I think that's what was great about the Point Break one as well. Is like like that part of town where they're running around.
There's a lot of fence jumping in that
Yeah,
in that chase.
Definitely. They jumped
and-
into like the dry ass river.
Yeah, they did. The LA River. Was it the LA River?
I think so. I feel like that canal. I mean, it's one of those canals that looks
like
exactly
the LA
same.
River.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where there's no water in it, just a little
Like a little
lame
channel.
stream. Yeah.
And then that led into another good sequence, which was that whole passport sequence with the dude with the mustache. I mean, not just the passport scene, but just all the events that led up to it. That we got to see him make the decision that I'm not gonna go with this guy anymore. I'm not gonna defend him. Like, he kept sending him all over to a million different countries, and he was, willing to do that to protect his honor, his people's honor, all that stuff. But then he got broken. I really enjoyed watching him break down.
But then when he got pulled in, he also didn't bend over either. He tried to take the blame
until
for everything.
they brought up the Muslim thing, and they said, the Islam,
well, they made him feel stupid, but
right? Exactly.
He was still like, I did it. It was all my plan. Like,
but then I'm just saying though, you watch that whole process.
Yeah.
I appreciated that because you don't really see that. Normally, they just come in, they break.
Well, the whole time I was expecting him to die. I was expecting someone to get sent in to take him out. Because that's what real gangsters do.
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird that they didn't do that in any of them. No one died. It seems like no one died, or at least no one they covered.
Italian gangsters are a little different, apparently.
Apparently, because they would
Russian gangsters are even more different.
Oh, they would have been dead immediately.
Yeah.
They would have died. The cops would have killed them because they didn't want to mess with the Russians. But yeah,
that's something else that I liked about it too. The cops specifically is like, once again, that dichotomy between cops there and cops here, like them running away from the cops, not really scared of the cops, just trying to get away. None of the cops had guns. We talked about it before as well.
Oh, it would have been.
Right here, like here in the States, it wouldn't have went by itself. If not shooting him, they would have beat the shit out of him on the street.
I think we can both agree that the movie was just not too long, but it was just monotonous. It was very
a bad for me was definitely the movie was redundant.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the sequences felt exactly the same. That you started off with the attack with the bombs and everything, and then once that happens, once they start doing the investigation, it feels almost exactly the same. And like on the one hand, like one of your goods was like the use of the color schemes. That also made it repetitive because
you knew, okay, now we're in the fast
exactly, and every single person went to the same place. They always went to the red place. There was always blue for the flashback, and so you were just at a certain point, I felt like the story just kind of disappeared. There wasn't really no story, and it was just following,
No,
it was
absolutely.
just, and it goes back to like we said at the beginning. It felt like a Law and Order SUV, whatever,
a criminal procedural,
CSI, like a criminal procedural film is what it felt like. And like that's cool for 30 minutes, once a week. Maybe if you're sick, home from school, you watch a couple of them, especially because it's a different story every time. But it was the same story, and it just felt like a 3-hour episode.
And I wouldn't say it's weird. Okay, so I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have no disagreements. My only gripe is I think it works as this movie. Like, I don't think anything that happens is bad in those times, no matter how repetitive it is. It's just because it's the same thing with no real change.
Right.
It's like, then it becomes like, okay,
this
should have been a TV show or something. You
start getting bored with it.
And it's not that it's bad. It's just because it's just
it's well made.
Back to back.
It's everything the way it was made is fine, but it's just when you watch too much of something, you get it. I get it already, and you're just hurrying up and waiting for them to capture. That's another bad I had about it was it was predictable. Like once they started capturing each guys, you knew they were going to get the big guy at the end, and it was kind of like anticlimactic. You didn't get that satisfaction that you normally get when you nail the bad guy.
And they didn't even get him. Really, his brother gave him up.
Right.
He went on a TV show and was like.
Like, I mean, if this is based on a real, like sometimes this is when you have to bend the reality.
And I think this one, I have a feeling, I don't know, but I feel like this movie didn't bend a lot.
Right.
I feel like because there was moments where they were introducing like real life footage, or at least appeared to be, where they have the president of Pakistan talking about. Again, I thought it was real. It might not be real, but they asked him like if are you guys harboring like these people, and he's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, well, if they happen to go into your country, would you extradite them to India? And instead of answering the question, he says, I don't know how many times I've told you like they're not in this country. It's like completely avoided the question, and then at the end like they reveal that like ISI was behind it and they were funding it and stuff like that. So I mean, that aspect, but that you have to wait 2.5 hours to get those moments.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I agree with you. It's like that's the end of the movie,
and it wasn't like it
wasn't a reveal where
the whole Pakistan connection was never talked about at all.
Well, I think that was the whole point. It was supposed to be revealed at the end. Like,
right,
are
but
these guys so bad?
But plant and payoff.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and there was no plant, you got no payoff.
That's true. Unless you're involved culturally, well, not culturally, that's not the right word. You're just involved because you live there. You're a part of this event, or you're.
I mean, I feel like the only time I even heard Pakistan referred to it in the movies when they were talking about going to Islamabad.
Yeah.
You know, that was about it. Other than that, like, you don't really, you know.
I mean, they mention it because they're the terrorist organization from Pakistan, you know, all that stuff. But I hear you 100%. No disagreement with me there. We both mentioned this. Actually, we mentioned this before we started recording, and then actually while we were watching the movie, the film stock's not the best.
No,
definitely on the lower side.
Yeah, while watching it, like, I was really surprised that this came out in 2004 because of how, and you know, provided we did watch a ripped copy, we have no idea what the actual,
like, the real film stock
might have been,
but
better.
It can't be any far because it reminded me of Mean Streets, and Mean Streets came out in the 70s,
right? Exactly,
and it was that old, beat up film stock that they found on the street just to make this movie possible.
And not only did it like feel like it was made in the 70s, but it reminded me of a 1970s film called Z that we watched in film school. It was about a fake government, like, but it was supposed to be on the Greek, about the Greek, a revolution in Greece. And it had that same kind of feel, like where they were hunting down all these people. I think it might have been
like a late 60s movie.
Z?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
It's either 1969 or like 71, 72.
Yeah, it's very, very early. Yeah. But no, it was, I mean, and that, but when because you brought that up, 1969, French thriller. Algerian French epic political thriller. So, and I agree with that. If you guys are interested in that movie, I recommend it. It's
and technically it's only Algerian because the guy got kicked out of Greece, and had to shoot it in Algeria.
Right,
it's the only place he could shoot it at.
I mean, it's very similar to this movie, at least in terms of
actually, who was the guy? The director of the film was the guy who was actually like kicked out of the country. He was like
Costa
the guy,
Garva.
Yeah, he was the guy reporting everything. He was because he says it at the end of the movie. Remember, it says like he's.
Yep. You know. Yep. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I recommend that movie. It's an older movie, but you know, if you're interested, if you're interested in what Black Friday was all about in terms of the realism and the pace and everything, definitely check out.
Very lots of similarities to this movie.
Absolutely.
If I'm gonna go ugly, and everybody knows my MO. Story.
No, there was none.
Yeah, there was none, and that's the ugliest part about this film.
We discussed in the Tax 2611 a solution for a story that if you follow the inspector, his daily life, you know, that there could be a story there while still maintaining the realism. What would have been the story for this movie?
It's funny that you mentioned that. This had all of that. This did kind of follow everybody around, and we did kind of get to know them. But it's still
not for the good guys though.
Not well. The good guys weren't important. I feel like, and that's
is that maybe what you were lacking? Like an actual tension to like these guys are on the run or whatever.
Well, that's the thing was, and it goes back to being so redundant and repetitive. Was there was no
on the run.
There was no on the run. There was no real stakes. Like you knew. And that's not a good thing. You knew that these guys were going to get captured.
As a film.
You knew, like, not watching it, like, it was very predictable. You knew everyone was going to get pinched, everything, the way it was going to go down. And you found that out, like, pretty fast within the first...
Right away.
Yeah.
People were getting snitched on.
Exactly. So, like...
Well, what would you have done to...
Honestly, for me, I probably would have killed a couple people. You know? Like, or at the very least, like... I think you could have elevated the events a little bit. You know, maybe someone dies in a shootout at the end. You know, something cliche like that. But it would have made it more exciting.
Even if it didn't happen in real.
Even if it didn't happen in real life, because at a certain point you got to make things cinematic. You know, like the biopic Dragon based on Bruce Lee. Half of that thing was made up.
I hadn't seen it. You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it in a theater. I was in high school, and it was great. You know, for example, spoiler alert, in the film. Bruce Lee gets his neck broken doing like an honorary like Chinese street fight. Like this guy challenges him from his. Is
this supposed to be in San Francisco or something?
Yeah.
This fight, like this famous fight. I think they just did a movie about this whole fight.
Yeah. Well, that fight was bullshit.
Yeah. No, that's why.
Yeah. He actually hurt himself weightlifting. Like he hurt his neck. He had to have surgery on his neck because he was like had a weightlifting injury. That wouldn't have been exciting to watch that. Instead, we see a fucking fight between these two like rivals from China, and it makes it great, you know.
Yeah, no,
and there's stuff like that. Like it was missing that kind of stuff. It was missing the cinematic elements, storytelling wise.
For a story, you know. I hear that. You can do it. I mean, it's tough because this is a sensitive subject matter.
Right.
So it's like, I'm sure he wanted to stay true to the book. He wanted to stay true to the events. He wanted to actually retell the events. And so, like, I don't fault him for that, but you could always improve. You could always look up to the people you looked up to, like Scorsese and Goodfellas. I mean, that was real.
Right.
But there was a story to it.
I mean, just think about the ending of God damn it. Just think about the ending of Goodfellas. Like when Henry Hill's losing his mind, he thinks everyone's chasing after him. You know, he's getting rid of all the
everything
coke.
built up to that.
Yeah, and it's like that tension and everything's building up, and that was a great way to really end that film. For this, I guess, and this is to add on to it, was our villain, the bad guy, just didn't really feel like...
Well, the bad guy is hardly seen on screen.
Exactly. You don't
just in shadows.
No, and he's on the phone a couple times. You see him at the beginning when he's kind of bragging about how he was behind the bombs, and the guy was like, well, you fucked up because everybody's looking for you, and you're going to get caught. And he's like, huh? You know, that's all. And like right then and there, like that kind of took me out of it, him being a villain anyways, because it was just like, okay, this dude came up with this whole plan to do this big attack, and then he's like, he didn't cover his bases.
Nope.
And like blatantly, the guy told him straight up, like, you fucked up. Like before we even get halfway through the movie, this is in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Whatever.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So I just feel like that might be the issue more than anything. Is like you didn't build your big baddie. There was no big baddie.
And like I said, it's a sensitive. It's not a sensitive. It's just it's a very particular film.
Absolutely.
And so like you could have had that, and it could have been better. You could also not have it, and it still pleases most people who seek this movie. Because I wouldn't have came across this movie ever.
I mean, and no, not at all. And I think maybe that's what's lacking is just the connection to the film. I didn't connect to it. You know, this wasn't. You know,
and that would have built a better connection.
Yeah, exactly.
For you.
This wasn't a film that was made for everybody.
It wasn't made for us.
No, definitely not.
But I still appreciated it.
No, it's not on a technical level. There's a lot of great things about it, but that for me is like story is always the most important thing for me in every film.
And that's valid. I only have one ugly, and those are those bleeps, the censorship bleeps. I mean, it was usually just the main con guy who was talking, and they'd in the subtitles would say fuck. But then it would just bleep. You just hear literally
my
bleeps.
Subtitles, they were edited too.
Some of them, yeah. But that really took me out, and I don't know if that was a creative decision or that was a censorship decision. Obviously, because it took 3 years for the movie to get released, so I'm assuming it was that. But if it was an artistic choice, shame on you, Kashyap, because that's like, you can't make a movie so serious to show violence, show people getting burned, and all this stuff, and then bleep out the words. You can't do that.
He just wanted to make sure he got that PG-13, bro.
I mean, but that's the thing. So if it was censorship, shame on the censorship, because dude, screw censorship.
Disrespecting art.
100%. But if it was Kashyap's decision, shame on him. He should know better.
Right.
Because that's childish. It really is. This isn't TV. When you're dealing with subject matter like this, if you're making a black comedy.
Well, even on TV.
No, I know.
They would have used different language.
I'm just saying though. But if it was like a black comedy, and he said something funny, and you wanted to add it in there for effect, cool, let's do it.
Right, as a choice.
But as on a serious movie like this, it completely disconnects the bridge between reality and what you actually see.
Absolutely.
And maybe, and who knows? Maybe this is because this rip we got was from Netflix, so maybe it was Netflix. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, that was extremely ugly for me. I did not like it at all. So let's get down to the ratings, the nitty gritty stories. You can start that off. I'm not expecting a high number from you.
Well, I called it ugly, so I'm gonna have to give a record low rating. I'm gonna give it a 1.
A 1. Woo. Well, I mean, you justified it because I mean, there really isn't a story here. There's not a traditional story here, and there's no way around it. That's a fact. For me though, what was there was enough to be constituted as a story. I didn't necessarily care about there being a villain or not. My gripes had to do more with editing and pacing. So for me, I'm at like a 7 because to me it was very educational.
Super high.
To me it was educational, and that might be a writing thing. I don't know, and maybe I'm lumping it in there. But for me, I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. For me,
And it's valid. You watch movies for different reasons. There's no shame in that. So let's jump to acting.
I'm gonna give acting an 8. I think it was pretty solid in the pocket. Nothing like spectacular. Like nobody wowed me, but it was definitely.
I'm at a 7. really mostly because of the dude with the mustache. Like,
Yeah.
he's the one who just, for me, he was the central force in the movie. He
Right.
was the backbone. He was the heart. He's what really got me into the movie. It's just unfortunate that he came in an hour or so. I mean, he was there since the beginning, but you don't really get to learn about him until later.
Yeah.
But for me, like that, if I were to nominate anyone for an award, it would probably be him
Right.
because I felt like he gave the best performance. But jump on down to directing. I'm going to go first. I'm going to give this one a solid 10. And it was just a well-directed movie, for especially this dealing with the subject matter as an outsider, as a foreigner, to be involved in it as much as I was, to not completely just throw it away. I don't know. To me, that's a big deal. And I'm a little bit of an Anurag dick rider now, but, you know, he's proving to be worth that, in my opinion.
I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. Looking at it on a technical level, I give it a 10. On an artistic level, I'm probably more around a 7. So let's call this. Have we done halves?
No, but I guess you can introduce it.
Let's do an 8.5. Let's just split it right down the middle.
8.5. All right, that works. And then we'll do cinematography. So go ahead. What do you think about
Cinematography for me? I think they did good. It's solid. It was a good job. Nothing like super crazy. Nothing.
A lot of camera movement.
Yeah, I mean, for what they were doing, they got the job. I give it an 8 because it was just like it was in the pocket. That's the best way. I know I keep using that term, but it was.
That's a good, accurate term. I'm also at 8. I have no. For me, that's yeah. Editing. So for me, editing is also a 10. And excuse me, editing is a 10 because of how much shit went on in this movie.
Right.
And for me, it got boring, but that's because, you know, this whole procedural thing, to me, that's not editing, that's script writing. You know, the pacing.
Right.
But to put it all together, to keep it all together, to make sure that at no point was I ever lost. I think that's most important. I was lost in terms of keeping track of names, but that's not the movie maker, the filmmaker's
Well, it's very
fault.
linear.
Yeah, I know.
Very sequential.
But even still, I mean, there's still a lot of characters going on. You kind of knew who was what and where and all this stuff. And there was some moments where they talked about the pen thing, but they didn't reveal it till the end.
Yeah.
Because one of them, there was a pen bomb and it blew up in the car. I mean, there's all these events that happen. So for me, it just kept the whole story afloat, and I think that's really important. So for me, 10. Because it's right up there.
For me, I gave it a 7. I didn't really notice anything.
Because I could take away a lot from this if I were to rewatch it for editing. You know, just the chase scene, the way they cut the chase scene was very impressive. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, me and you had to cut a chase scene at USC for a editing grad class.
Yeah.
And just doing that with footage that was shot for it, like we didn't have to shoot any of it.
Right.
It was just, there was a million different ways that people edited that chase. And not everyone was great.
Right.
So I'm just saying. So for me, it's like for that chase particularly, you know, it's hard to pull off.
I go by 7 because nothing jarred me, but nothing like stood out. Either.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't. I didn't notice anything. So that's how I kind of look at it.
And then finally, sound. Like I said, I enjoyed sound, but there were some technical moments on this episode. On this movie, where you do have these weird syncing issues because you can tell they ADR'd it, especially in their breathing, you know, they're running and things like that. And those always distract me, especially as a sound engineer myself. There's ways where you can do it better. It's just about how much time and money you have. I mean, they could have actually played. I mean, they also shot on film too. It was done in 2004, so they might not have the computers to actually play it back and do a real ADR session because they would actually probably have to string up the film and then do it later. So, I mean, trust me, there's a lot of things that go on here, so I don't fault them 100%, but they're still there.
It's definitely budgetary things.
Yeah. So, for me, sound is like a 7.
I'll go with the 7 too. Same thing, like, sound didn't bother me, but nothing like...
At least it was clear.
It was consistent, definitely.
I give Anurag credit for never putting out shitty audio. Right. It might not be synced up, it might not be whatever, but it always sounds clear.
It's a choice.
And that's important. That puts our final scores at me an 8.2 and you a 6.5. Well, 6.6 if you round up the decimals.
Yeah, 6 point. Not my favorite. Not something I would revisit. Definitely not my favorite Kashyap film. But anyways, you know the drill. Smash that like button, leave comments, let us know what you think, and be on the lookout for our review tomorrow of Sirot. Yes, we have a double feature weekend today and tomorrow. Sirot, if you're watching this, make sure to watch Sirot tomorrow. And if you watch Sirot first, thanks for watching this review. Next week, we're going to be doing Bajirao Mastani. That should be a good one. It's our
Sword and Sandal.
It's our second Sword and Sandal epic. If you compare it
to first Bollywood Sword and Sandal.
Bahubali, that's true. Our first Bollywood Sword and Sandal, it's the same guy that did Padmavat. So it's going to be our first exposure to that director. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to the songs. Anyways, we'll see you next time.